So with the 37th pick in the 2021 NFL Draft, the Philadelphia Eagles select a guard from Alabama, Landon Dickerson.
Second round pick knows what it feels like to hoist a trophy. We are so excited to have him here in Philadelphia. We're pumped to have you with us here as well, here on Eagles Draft Central, presented by Dietz and Watson. Amy Campbell joined, as always, by Ross Tucker, Fran Duffy for day 3 of the draft. Guys, the Eagles have already added 3 players, but we are not even halfway there. I hope everyone at home is ready for a long and exciting day, because we certainly are over here.
My favorite day of the draft. I'm so excited for day 3. It's my favorite one where we really kind of dig into some of these names, and we're going to be here all day long breaking all of them down. I cannot wait for this thing to get going.
Well, 8 more guys. And they might not make every pick, but there's a chance to get 8 more guys. We'll see what they do. Maybe they trade for next year. Maybe they package some picks to move up. You really don't know, but they have optionality with those 8 picks. Today is for the diehards.
Yes.
Today we separate the men from the boys in terms of the Eagles fans.
Or the women as well, I should add. All right, let's take a look at the draft tracker here. The Eagles, 3 picks already in the fold. A lot to look forward to today as well. As it stands right now, next up in round 4, pick 123. 4 picks in the 6th round. That is a lot of capital. Let's talk about yesterday's selections a little bit. Guys, they address the trenches with Landon Dickerson, with Milton Williams as well. Let's start with Dickerson, because Ross, I know he was one of your favorite, if not your favorite player in this entire draft. A talent that the Eagles were able to grab at pick 37. How pumped were you about this?
Yeah, I mean, no, he's my single favorite player in the draft. I love everything about this dude. The videos on PhiladelphiaEagles.com when he answered the call. This guy embraces what I think is important about playing the offensive line position. He is tough. He's nasty. I just don't think blocking people's that fun. Trying to throw them down on the ground, that's what's fun. How about when we started the show, the clip of him with his helmet off, throwing the Tennessee linebacker into the end zone, into another guy. He plays the position the way I tried to play the position, the way I think it should be played, and frankly, the way a lot of NFL teams think it should be played, which is why so many teams wanted him.
He is such a fun player to be able to watch. And really, when you talk about what he brings off the field as well, I think he and Devontae Smith, both obviously coming from Alabama, have that ability to be cornerstone players. Those kind of guys that can really rally everybody else in the locker room, in their position rooms. Landon Dickerson brings that. Devontae Smith brings that. Both of them obviously have that championship pedigree with the Alabama Crimson Tide.
Well, and the Eagles very excited to be able to add a player of his caliber with the 37th pick, a top 20 talent, as many people would, and you would agree, Ross, as well, that injuries let him slide a little bit, so the Eagles were able to grab someone who's going to be a long-term player here for the Eagles.
Yeah, look, the injury history is well documented. We all know about it, but, my junior year of college, I tore my MCL. Senior year, I had a hernia surgery. I ended up playing 7 years, and he's way better than I was. So maybe he plays 14. We'll see.
Yep.
Yeah, it's a high risk, high reward, or I wouldn't even say a high risk. Obviously, they reiterated how comfortable the medical staff felt. High reward prospect there that is going to be something to look forward to. And of course, there's no questions that the injury concerns have been a reason that such a talented player was there for the Eagles in the 2nd round. But the new Eagles offensive lineman addressed some of those questions when he met with the Philly media, and of course shared his excitement to play with his former teammate, Eagles first rounder Devontae Smith.
Timetable for me, I'm just taking it day by day right now. I'm looking to get back as soon as I can and work on competing and doing that, whatever I can to make this team better. And then favorite Devontae Smith story, I may save those for another day. We got plenty of them, but Devontae's a great dude. I love him to death, and I'm really excited to work, getting to work with him and play with him. So
we will look forward to those Devontae Smith stories coming on another day. Of course, day 2, all about the trenches for the Eagles. They also added Milton Williams out of Louisiana Tech, an explosive athlete, Fran, with the capital EXP.
I mean, whether it's the testing scores, and you talk about explosiveness, this guy jumped 38.5 inches in the vertical jump. That is better than any defensive tackle drafted in the last decade plus. This guy has got all kinds of juice, inside, outside versatility. He can play the run. He can get after the quarterback. Just a really disruptive football player.
Well, and the thing for me is the initial quickness. And they get off the snap. That's the stuff that scares you as an offensive lineman.
Yeah, a freak athlete and a guy who I'm really pumped about him. I think if fans didn't watch his press conference last night, we're about to show you a clip of that, but he seems like he really loves the game, and he's very excited for the opportunity to play in the NFL and what this means for his whole family to accomplish his lifelong dream. So, of course, he is thrilled to be joining the Eagles, and he shares a little bit more of that excitement right here.
Oh man, I'm right now. I'm back in Crowley, Texas, in my hometown. Just watching it with my family, and when I got the call, man, it was just a lot of emotion. I talked to the coach earlier. I said, "Man, y'all got me crying like a baby. Just so excited and ready to be an Eagle." And the crazy thing is, my high school mascot was the Eagles. So this is gonna be my second time being an Eagle, and just really ready to be a part of a great organization.
What a fun fact, right? Still an Eagle. So 3 huge additions in the fold for Philadelphia. We are not even halfway there. Currently 8 picks today for the Eagles, which means all the opportunity. Fran, this is really where you build your team. Day 3, of course, Ross, you said today is for the diehards, and I think all 3 of us would consider ourselves diehards, and this is really where the fun stuff happens.
No question. It's absolutely for us that are fans of the draft. You love to be able to see these guys come off the board, but then also it's all about finding value, because all of these teams all across the NFL, they don't have, when they're picking a guy in the 4th round, they're going to have second-round grades on these guys, third-round grades. You're still getting what you believe to be good football players. You can find a lot of value on day 3.
Well, and look, I know we'll talk a little bit later about some of the guys the Eagles have gotten on day 3, but Tom Brady, George Kittle, I mean, there's a lot of guys that have been drafted today. And you think about some of the guys that are still available that we'll discuss, there's a lot of good players still out there. For whatever reason, they weren't one of the top 100 guys to go off the board.
Yeah, there's good. You have these picks, but those picks are capital as well. So there's going to be trades. We may see players across the league that are already on teams being traded. I also just want to add, I'm pretty sure that I got this job because I said I was a draft nerd, and Fran was in my interview, and I was already a fan of Fran's draft work, and I said I'm a draft nerd, and I'm pretty sure that's the reason I even got this job. So it's just been a match made in heaven.
You know how to play to the audience. That's all.
Yeah. Fran, that was 100% from my soul, and of course it's been a match made in heaven ever since. And if you have been listening anytime Howie Roseman talks about the draft, he will always say day 3 is his favorite as well. So much opportunity to add talent. Here's the Eagles GM talking about just that with the Eagles insider, Dave Spadaro.
Saturday's the most fun day because you're adding the most Eagle players to your team. So, I love Saturday, and we have this meeting on Saturday morning where we have all the scouts in the room, and Coach will be there, and Jeffrey will be there, and we basically say, all right, now it's the 3rd day, who are you standing on the table for? And so that day is really where all the work comes to fruition. And everyone understands how important that Thursday is because it sets the table for the week, right? It's like the appetizer. But the main meal is really going to be on Saturday. And when you look at our World Championship team, there are a lot of players from Saturday going into that. And this is the ultimate team sport, and you need depth in this league. So there is much of a process in those picks as there is going to be in the 1st and 2nd round. Now, we may spend a lot more time talking about the 1st rounder. We may spend a lot more time talking about the 2nd rounder, but we have spent as much time going through those guys, and the process for those guys is the same as the guy that we picked in the 1st round.
And with that, let's bring in the Eagles insider, Dave Spadaro. And Dave, day 3, really where things happen in the NFL draft. The Eagles with 8 picks today. Currently, for the Eagles staff, how does the approach shift on day 3 compared to the first 2?
So it's pretty interesting, Amy. In the morning, the Eagles just concluded a meeting run by Andy Weidel, the Vice President of Player Personnel. In that meeting, Jeffrey Lurie, Howie Roseman, Nick Sirianni, all the scouts. And with 8 picks, they go, all right, who would you start? Give me 8 stars. Put those stars next to 8 names. And I'm sure there's more than 8 stars just in case. But give me some stars, and then the Eagles try to go and find those 8 players. And so this is really a day where all of the work that you've done for the last 11 months, the scouts on the road, all the interviews, all the intel they've gathered, the film they've watched, this is where, as Howie said in that clip, where the scouts stand up on the table and say, that's the guy I want. And so we'll see what happens today with the Eagles. How many of those guys that they've starred will they end up with at the end of the day?
Dave, I understand you had a chance to run into new defensive coordinator Jonathan Gannon a little bit ago. What did he say about his newest D tackle, Milton Williams?
Yeah, well, really interesting because I spend a lot of time in the cafeteria. Howie always talks about the main course. Well, the cafeteria is right around the corner here. And Jonathan and I spoke about Milton. He gave me 3 categories, reasons why he really loved him, why he was so fired up about the pick. Number 1, character that he said is through the ceiling, that's the kind of player that he wants to build his defense around. Number 2, mean and motor. He's mean on the football field. He's got a big motor, and that's exactly what he wants from his defense, particularly up front. New scheme here. We don't know the exact details, but I expect it to be more aggressive and more tenacious, take the football away than Jim Schwartz's defense in the past few years here. And then number 3, he really likes the versatility that Williams brings to this defense. He can play outside and set the edge, and he can slide right down the line and rush the quarterback from the inside. That's something that the Eagles, other than Fletcher Cox, really don't have.
Dave, you gave us that great nugget earlier about the Eagles trying to find star players here today, but they've had success finding star players on day 3 in the past. Can you talk about some of the guys that maybe fans kind of forget were found on the 3rd day of the draft?
I mean, some of these guys, Fran, are no longer with the team, but way back when, 2010, Kurt Coleman, who had a long NFL career. Jason Kelsey, 2011. Jordan Poyer, who's playing in Buffalo and playing quite well there. For the Eagles, let's see, Jordan Mailata, a 7th-round pick, who very well could be the starting left tackle at the beginning of the season in 2021. Jalen Mills was a 7th-round draft pick. So there is success late in the draft. You must have success on day 3 of the draft. We're going to talk about the first 3 picks a lot, but this is the bread and butter. This is where you find out just how good your scouting department is and how accurate your board is and how it fits with the schemes your coaching staff has employed.
A lot of unknown, a lot of mystery, a lot of excitement ahead of us today. Dave, did you have any coffee?
I haven't had any coffee yet. I'm still drinking water. I'm not really a coffee drinker. And I'm early, and I got a lot of energy, so check back with me a little bit later.
I love it. We will be keeping in touch with you all day long. And, of course, I know the Eagles Insider podcast will have tons of stuff on there as well. See you soon, Dave.
All right, Amy. Thanks.
So, of course, the Eagles going to be adding a lot of new talent today. And coming up, we will be breaking down some of the big prospects still available heading into day 3. Day 3 of the draft means we aren't even halfway there, and we are going to talk some prospects you will want to know heading into today. And guys, I have to say, we have been hitting so far the last couple of days. So we'll start with offense. Ross, we'll start with you. Who's the guy that you have your eye on today?
Yeah, I wouldn't mind if we hit this one. How about University of Miami tight end Brevin Jordan? Absolutely love watching this guy's video. Maybe a little bit undersized, but he's been so productive for the Hurricanes. Look at the routes he can run. Very athletic. You know, I'd picture him being more of a move tight end. You see how they used him right there? He gets out in space. Terrific run after catch. He actually, the last 2 years, had over 35 catches over 14 years. Look at that. I mean, he's a hurdling Louisville dudes. He is a legit athlete. You see the numbers. Over 14 yards per catch just the last couple seasons. And, you know, he even got after people in the running game a little bit more than I thought he would as a blocker, given his size.
Yeah, some of my favorite prospects are the guys that pop when you're not watching them, you're watching somebody else. And a couple years ago, I was watching a couple Florida defensive ends, and they were playing Miami, and there was this tight end that was holding up really well in pass protection. I'm like, who is this guy? It's Brevin Jordan, and he's holding up really, really well. He's very athletic. He's dynamic with the ball in his hands. We saw what he can do after the catch, but then this is a guy I talked with some members of that coaching staff. They speak very, very highly of him and his work ethic. Reminds me a little bit of Jonnu Smith, who just signed a big free agent deal in New England. Obviously a productive career so far with the Tennessee Titans. So Brevin Jordan, a really intriguing player.
And a good history for Miami tight ends as well. And I love what they used, how they used him in this offense, a reliable chain mover for this Hurricanes offense. Fran, who are you going to be looking at today?
I'm going to go to the wide receiver position and talk about Amon-Ra St. Brown from USC. He started outside this past season as a junior, took over for Michael Pittman, who was a second-round pick a year ago, but he played in the slot before that. So this is a guy that's got inside-outside versatility, former big-time recruit, catches everything, crisp route runner, can get off the line of scrimmage against the jam, can create with the ball in his hands. He just checks a lot of boxes. Where you're not going to be wowed is the long speed. He's not a 4.4 burner, but that's okay. There are plenty of wide receivers that are successful players in the league right now that ran in the mid to high 4.5s. And I think when you look at Amon-Ra St. Brown, it reminds me a little bit of Tyler Boyd when he was coming out of the University of Pittsburgh a couple of years ago, has turned into a really solid pro for the Cincinnati Bengals.
Well, and I had a chance to call Amon-Ra's game when he was in the U.S. Army All-American Bowl. He might have been the most confident, maybe a little cocky guy that had been there, and that's okay. Yep. Look, this is pro football, okay? You need to have some of that to you. He is feisty. We talked about Brevin Jordan. Amon-Ra will get after you as well. As a blocker, he's physical. I love receivers that you see they got that in him. They got the dog in them.
He's blocking guys out of bounds through the end zone. He is a fun player to watch.
I love it. I love the attitude, and really interesting person as well. Speaks 3 languages. Of course, the 3 brothers, all with fantastic names. We probably know Equinemius St. Brown. He also has a brother, Osiris, who plays football. Their mother only speaks German to the son. So really just a fascinating person, and I love seeing football players who are really good on the field and just interesting off the field. All right, I am going to look at the running back position, which I think could be interesting today for the Eagles, and I'm talking about Kenneth Gainwell out of Memphis, which is kind of becoming a little bit of a running back factory there. Also, not lost on me that his name is Gainwell, and that is exactly what he does. He has a background as a receiver. He's a great receiving running back. He's been really productive, of course, with rushing, but also receiving. More than 1,400 rushing yards and 14 touchdowns. Receiving, 610 yards receiving. That's in one season. The only player in the FBS with 1,500. That versatility is what I love about him, and look at that stop-start quickness. He's a tough guy to tackle, can be very versatile, and of course in an NFL where these receiving running backs are becoming more and more valuable with these offenses. You look at what Alvin Kamara really was probably one of the first that we saw do that. These guys are becoming more intriguing.
Well, and Amy, you know, you mentioned Memphis running backs. They've all come to the NFL and done a nice job. Antonio Gibson for Washington, and I really believe that Gainwell would get drafted as a slot receiver if that's the position he played. He kind of fools you wearing number 19 like that, but he could come here and play running back on third down and get some slot receiver snaps as well.
Ran a full route tree, lining up in the slot, lined up out wide. A really fun, versatile player. And to me as well, one fun fact, came from Yazoo City, Mississippi, same hometown as Eagles defensive tackle Fletcher Cox.
Yeah, and Fran, we're talking about pounding the table. I know this is a guy you would pound the table for, one of your favorites. All right, one more from you, Ross, before we go to break here.
Well, I'm not going to pound the table for Ramondre Stevenson, the running back from Oklahoma, but that's the way this guy plays. I mean, he's 6 feet, 231 pounds. He is a banger. I think he'd be a really nice compliment to Miles Sanders. He actually has better feet than you would think given those dimensions. Former junior college kid, kind of came out of nowhere at Oklahoma to be very productive the last couple years. Look at the way he can cut and move At 231 pounds, he could really give the Eagles more of that power, bigger back in the backfield.
I remember watching him against Oklahoma State, their rivalry game, and he stood out in the screen game. So getting him out in space, I thought he was really effective.
Yeah, so several names to keep an eye on for Eagles fans today. We're going to take a quick break, but first, don't forget, you can wake up to the latest Eagles news on your Amazon Alexa or your Google Home. To find out more, go to PhiladelphiaEagles.com. On the other side of the break, we are talking defensive prospects still on the board. Stay tuned. Settling in for day 3 of the NFL Draft, the Eagles are about to add the bulk of their class in the next few hours. And here on Eagles Draft Central, we are talking defensive prospects still on the board for today. Russ, who you got?
Yeah, I'm going to start with Derek Barnes, a linebacker from Purdue. I love this dude. Very physical. He's played both on the edge and been an edge rusher. Look, he looks like Brandon Graham right there, number 55, off the edge. But then this year, they moved him off the ball, and he was really good as a second-level defender. I think he's lost some weight. He's down to 238 pounds now. There were a couple Purdue games I watched where I swore this guy made every tackle. 159 solo tackles. Look at the numbers. And early in his career was good on special teams, which is very important for day 3 guys.
And honestly, when I first watched him, I thought, oh, this is probably like a backup defensive end. And then the more you watch, you see this guy actually has the athleticism to play linebacker. He goes to the Senior Bowl, performed very well, looked very natural in coverage drills, whether it was one-on-ones or in 7-on-7. He's got what it takes to make it in the league for sure.
And the Purdue recipient of the Big Ten Sportsmanship Award of the year as well, so a lot to like there. Fran, who are you looking at today on defense?
So we talked about a linebacker defensive end hybrid with Derek Barnes. I'm going to go with a defensive end defensive tackle hybrid in Cam Sample. This is a guy that is really, really disruptive, a fun player to watch that honestly a lot of similarities to first-round pick Kwity Paye out of Michigan. He's got that ability to line up and down the line of scrimmage. He was used in a lot of different ways, and really on base downs, he was more of a two-gap player, which didn't really fit his skill set, but it did affect his production. When he was allowed to just pin his ears back and go, you could see that he's got that first step quickness. He goes down to the Senior Bowl. You could see that footage there. He was the defensive lineman of the week on his side of the ball. So this is a guy that has earned the respect of his peers. The best offensive lineman in the country in the senior class thought that this guy really stood out. He's a fun player on film.
Yeah, he almost reminds me a little bit, Fram, of Milton Williams.
Yeah,
the third-round pick for the Eagles, in the sense that I called a couple of samples games when he was in college. He can play D-end when you think it's a run, in base defense. But then I picture him sliding inside in nickel or sub when it's an obvious passing down. He gives you a little bit of shake and wiggle there as an interior rusher.
Yeah, a guy who sophomore and junior years were on the NFL radar a little bit, had a great senior season and even better Senior Bowl, trending up. I love that. All right, I am going back to the linebacker position, and I'm going to LSU for Jabril Cox, a guy that I am surprised is still available tonight. Now, of course, he was a 3-time FCS national champion at North Dakota State, wanted to play against top competition, transferred to LSU, immediately a captain, and nothing but good things to say from that program. Of course, you can see he has the skills, the closing speed, the eyes, he can fly downhill. Pro Football Focus highest coverage grade of Power 5 linebackers, and just a guy who I'm really surprised is still available today.
Yeah, he was asked by media, why didn't you opt out? The FCS season was canceled. You could have just said, hey, I'm just going to get ready for the draft. And he said, this was the only way I was going to get better. I want to go down to the SEC and play against the very best. I think that speaks a lot to his character.
Well, and here's the thing. When a guy plays at the FCS level, I can speak to this, there's always a little bit of skepticism. How would he look on an SEC field? He fit right in at LSU. I mean, he looked as good as any of those guys.
Yep.
Yeah, and to be a captain after not having been there in an SEC school, really impressive. All right, Ross, one more that you're looking at today.
Well, we were talking about North Dakota State and Jabril Cox. I'm going to go with another FCS player, and that's Robert Rochelle. He is a cornerback from Central Arkansas. By the way, FCS playoffs today. Look at Rochelle here, jumping the route. That's against Trey Lance. I mean, that's the North Dakota State Bison right there. 6 foot, 193, and he can run. I mean, he was third. Look at him get down the field on special teams. Again, I told you, day 3 special teams, but he was third in the state of Louisiana in the 100-meter dash. Let me tell you, there's a lot of fast kids in Louisiana. If you're third in the 100-meter dash, you can absolutely roll. Again here, making plays against Trey Lance, the guy that ends up going third overall in the draft. Great sign for Rochelle, and the ball production just off the charts.
There are a lot of scouts that would say that college production can be a little bit overrated, that you don't want to take too much of what they did in school from that standpoint. The one caveat to that will be defensive backs that have been able to get their hands on the football, pass breakups, interceptions. That stuff travels with you from college to the NFL. So when you've got length, height, top-end speed, and then also the ball production, those guys usually go a little bit earlier, and I think Rochelle could be a steal for somebody. He's got a really intriguing player at the cornerback spot.
Well, and what I like about him, he enrolled as a receiver, and you see this trend of a lot of high school athletes, receiver, corner, where they're going to end up. They're really athletic, and cornerback, I think, is the smarter choice. It's where the money is, and of course, the draft stock is a little bit better as well. So intriguing to see where he'll end up today. All right, we are going to take a quick break here on Eagles Draft Central. Stay with us. Eagles Draft Central presented by Dietz Watson, proud partner of the Philadelphia Eagles. And Eagles fans, don't forget to join in the fun with Eagles Draft Trivia on our app, thanks to our friends at NovaCare Rehabilitation. Russ, I know you took a crack at it this morning. How was it for you?
Yeah, well, I knew you would put me on the spot again. So, yes, I did do it. I got 3 out of 4. The last one's hard, but it's current stuff. I mean, it's like the guys they've drafted this weekend, recent Eagle stuff. It's not back in the 80s or 90s. I think I did pretty well.
Not in your sweet spot.
Do you know anyone who got 4 for 4?
Yeah, it was you, Fran, when you did it right after I did it, and the last question was true or false, and you guessed and went the opposite of what I did. Congratulations.
So let's always say we put an asterisk next to that one for you, Fran.
Some people might put the asterisk. I might say it was a clean win.
A clean win. All right. Well, we'll let the fans have fun with that today as well. Fran, I know you also have a lot of stuff going on the Journey to the Draft podcast. You've been here super late each night working on it, getting inside interviews and content that can only be found there.
Yeah, we've been obviously working very hard over there, and we've got so far analysis on all 3 of the Eagles picks. You can find that wherever podcasts can be found. The Journey to the Draft podcast tomorrow morning on Sunday. We will have analysis of all the Eagles' day 3 selections. And then later this week, we start some of my favorite podcasts of the year, Amy, where we go back and talk about all the times we discussed the Eagles draft picks. We've got stuff on Devontae Smith from like 2018, 2019. It's going to be a lot of fun going through all of their journeys to the draft.
Yeah, a perfectly named podcast as well. So, of course, today is going to be a long day full of excitement, and make sure at home that you're drinking plenty of water, you're staying fueled up, and thanks to our friends at Linden Italian Market and Dietz & Watson, we're going to have another big delivery of meats and cheeses and the wraps, the hoagies, the swoop sauce. It's been a great few days. We have not been hungry.
No, I mean, I think I've had 3 or 4 hoagies. I'm probably setting a record. I'll do one more. I'll do one more, but I think that's probably, it's been amazing.
Yeah.
I'll take the over. He's going to have more than one more.
Yeah, I think that's probably a safe bet. You're going to have to roll me out of here. I'm not lying. Okay, so it is going to be a long and exciting day here on day 3 of the NFL draft. I keep saying it, but we're not even halfway there. Hard to imagine. So many picks for the Eagles today. You can join us live after each round here on Eagles Draft Central for reaction and analysis, exclusive content that you won't find anywhere else. Our website, app, and social channels will also have press conferences from the new Eagles players and the Eagles staff throughout the day. We've got you covered. As always, for Fran Duffy and Ross Tucker, I'm Amy Campbell. We'll see you after the 4th round.